What is going on, my beautiful LARPers and LARPettes? Today we're going to go over the Smith & Wesson M&P9 2.0 Metal Carry Comp. They got to do something with these names, man. There's a little too long for my taste, but the integrally compensated metal version, you could definitely tell the difference between this and the others. I'll get into those details in a second, but first, my relationship with Smith & Wesson. They do send me out firearms for review to test out and keep at the end of my review. They have sent me many guns throughout the years. This isn't the first metal version of the M&P, but I'll bring those up and compare them to this one in a second as well. But let's get right into it, guys. I guess I can go over the similarities first, just because that's gonna be a lot faster to talk about than the rest of the gun. But this is the original M&P metal here, and this is the new and improved M&P metal. But the lower receivers, or the frames here, are basically identical. Everything about them is exactly the same. So you get the same front rail there, the accessory rail, and you get the same trigger guards, you get the same triggers, you get the same mag releases, you get the same grip style. Everything on here is exactly the same. But my biggest thing about the metal here, the aluminum frame, is not that it's not steel. I would love a steel version, but it's the lack of texturing that I have on here. So if you're looking at the frame here right in the middle, it's super smooth, and that's kind of where my hand fits. Probably yours won't fit there. You probably grab it like a normal person, but me, I have a really high grip here, and this portion right here is where a majority of my grip pressure is, and sadly I don't have anything to give me any grippiness there. So I just wish they would update that to give you some little bit more texturing right there, or an option to maybe to put an insert or something there. But yeah, that's basically my biggest gripe about the metal frames. Now let's move on to the major difference between this, comparing it to the other metal frames, or basically any other M&P across the board, is the slide here. This slide is probably my favorite slide to date from Smith & Wesson themselves. This is something that you get out of a company that is doing aftermarket slide cuts or milling and compensating and all that good stuff. I was very surprised when Smith & Wesson came out with this here, just because I was like, holy crap, this is not really something that you normally do as far as how cool it looks. I mean, not saying that the other ones aren't cool. To me, I feel like it's pretty basic. You know, you get those fish gills right here in the back, you get some serrations in the front, and then there's really nothing else going on. I believe the only other cool one that I saw was the Competitor, I believe that's what it's called. I liked the serrations a little bit on that one, or the lightning cuts that they put on that one. But this one just knocked it out of the park. They completely redesigned that whole slide there. And they didn't just do this one. They did the M&P Shield Plus, I believe, and they also compensated that. And they also did this same exact one on a polymer frame. But let's move on to the barrel. You get a 4.22 inch barrel, 4.22. And let me talk about what the difference is here between the others. Is you're getting a nice little chunk cut out of there, out of that barrel, to give you that integrally compensated compensator onto this whole slide here. And it is also cut on top of that slide to let those gases escape somewhere. But what I really want to point out is the fact that this port being here, there's no rifling the rest of the way through. So it kind of stops right here in the end of that port, or the beginning of that port. I'll get you a little bit closer up so you can see what I'm talking about. So even though the website says it's a 4.22, which is basically all the other standard M&Ps or the full-size M&Ps, this one is more, I don't know, I would kind of guesstimate as maybe like a 3.9 inch barrel, or what is it? I don't know, maybe like a 4-inch barrel. So you don't get the rifling all the way through that barrel there. So I'm curious if we do some ballistic testing with this, or the feet per second that's coming out of this, if there's going to be a major difference between this one here and say a standard 4.2 inch barrel. Moving on to the slide, you get a nice port cut out the top of that slide there, like I said before, and you get these lightning cuts right here. I think that is a very nice touch there. I don't really see a whole lot of gases escaping from the left and the right of that. It only escapes upwards, and even though I shot this around, I think I shot this 800 rounds or so, no real carbon buildup on this thing, believe it or not. It's this coating, this Armornite finish, I believe is what they call it, is a very slick coating right here. So yeah, usually other ported guns that I have similar to this, I'll get a lot of carbon buildup from shooting around 800 to 1,000 rounds, but I like that. And moving on back, you get the beautiful serrations. They're super aggressive up front. When I usually do my reloads and racks, I kind of put the magazine in and then rack it from the front. I bump that shit up a little bit, but magazine in and I'll rack it that way. As far as the rear goes, you get nice, aggressive, deep serrations in the rear, as well as the back of it has somewhat of a little divot cut out in the back, but you're able to get a good grip and insert your fingers back there if you wanted to rack when you have an optic on here. Usually if you have an optic, you can't do an overhand and do this way. Usually people will use the optic to rack it, or they'll rack it from the back, and I do like that there's no slippage issues back there. You get a blacked out rear sight, a tritium front sight, and I still don't know what to call this color here. It's kind of like a highlighter green yellowish color. You get the same exact optic cut option that you do across the other Smith & Wesson metal models, or any Smith & Wesson M&P9 model. But that's pretty much it, guys. Is the slide was completely redesigned as far as the serrations and the compensated port there goes. But this slide you can put on your other models, basically all the other M&P 2.0 models. I can put them on this frame here. Let me swap them out really quick, but without YouTube shutting my account down for gunsmithing. So this is how the slide looks on the other metal model that I have. It's like a grayish frame. Looks pretty cool. It's like a darker, like gunmetal gray on top with like a normal gray at the bottom. I don't know what to call these grays, but 50 shades of gray going on right here. Then we have the green frame that was on the metal Spec series that I reviewed as well. I think this color looks really freaking awesome. I got to get you guys a closer up look, but this color with the gray, green and gray, looks really, really cool in my eyes. But all parts are interchangeable. I even went ahead right now and put on the other 4.22 inch barrel on this one here without that port cutout, and you can very well shoot that without the port cutout. So for some reason you get tired of shooting with the port, you can just swap in that other barrel and basically just have a cooler looking slide on a normal barrel there. As far as shootability goes, this thing is very flat shooting. I mean, with that port cut out there, it definitely makes me feel like I could get a little bit faster follow-up shots and return to zero a lot faster. But that port, I could definitely feel a difference between shooting that and shooting the standard M&P 2.0. I have some footage comparing the compensated model to the standard M&P metal model, and I definitely felt that there was a little bit less muzzle rise on the compensated model. Now, comparing this to the Spec series, this is their other take on having a compensated version of the metal here. And this one here, and this is where I kind of look at other companies or other people's reviews, other YouTubers. And one of the YouTubers that I usually look at for honest, unbiased reviews is the Humble Marksman. He's a good friend of mine, and he had an issue with this one here. It was kind of a bolt action where it would lock back on every round, and he would have to hold this slide release here. But after 800 rounds, I didn't have an issue with this one right here. But I did have an issue with this one here, and this is where I'm kind of always thinking, okay, if Smith & Wesson sends me out guns, I'm always wondering if they're cherry picking guns for me. But this one did come with issues, and this one they also sent me for review. If you haven't seen the Spec series review that I did, I do have to take off the compensator in order for this gun to work. Maybe it's the spring is different. I haven't messed with a bunch of springs on this, but I just can't get it to work with this compensator. When I take it off, it works completely fine. But with this compensator, it's a jam city, guys. I can't get this gun to work properly with this compensator. And that was unfortunate, but I'm very glad that they went away with this, because I'm not really a huge fan of having a compensator stick out and add extra length to your slide. This I much rather have here. And this one, like I said, I didn't have any issues with. This I did have issues with, but for me, I just take off that compensator and I'm good to go. And I haven't done a legitimate test on comparing compensator versus compensator, integrally compensated models, but I always feel that a compensator that's built into the gun, kind of like this here, or just cut out through the barrel, as opposed to adding a piece onto the barrel, this one feels a lot smoother than this one. But yeah, guys, 800 rounds, 0 malfunctions, 0 problems to this guy here. I'm really interested to hear what Humble Marksman has to say about the issues he was having with these, because out of all the metal versions that I haven't had that issue that he was having. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just go on to his channel and check out his review of this gun here. And it was just really odd. I had that issue before, but with a 2011, which was the Watchtower 2011, and I just swapped out the slide release and it was good to go. Not sure what you would do to fix that on one of these, but this is slowly becoming my favorite M&P9 just because of how sexy that slide looks. I just like getting the gun in where I kind of say, you know what, I don't need to do anything to that slide. I don't need to send it out to a third-party company and get it cut out, get it serrated, get a optic cut out. This is kind of what the person wants to have right out of the box, so that way they don't have to spend extra money and extra time sending it out and waiting for it to get back and lead times and all that BS. My biggest thing here is still the frame. I mean, from the 3 iterations that I have here, they're all exactly the same, and I have the same opinion about all 3 of them. I don't like the frame that doesn't have any texture up here. I've said that when I reviewed the first one that I got in. I just grip my gun too high to the point where I need some texture right in this general area right here. So hear me out, Smith & Wesson. Texturing, or an option to put texturing, not just me sticking grip tape on there, some texturing, and a steel frame. Huh? You guys would sell those like crazy, especially to those competition shooters that are using these for competition. My good friend Hunter Constantine completely obliterates people with these guns, the plastic ones especially. But imagine putting a metal version of this in his hands, or any Grandmaster. These things would absolutely destroy. But what do you guys think about the Smith & Wesson M&P9 2.0 metal comp? Is this the sexiest Smith & Wesson M&P9 to date? Or is it something that you kind of gonna say, you know what, I'll pass. I don't really care for a compensator and prettier slide. I prefer to have just a normal, well, this isn't the normal cut slide. This is the normal slide and slide cuts. I mean, look at that. It's okay, it's okay. It'll get the job done, but this, I mean, look at that. Look at how aggressive that thing looks. Look at how cool it looks. You guys decide. Let me know in the comments down below if you like the 2.0 compensated version, or if you're gonna save your money for something else. There is a price difference between all 2 of them for now. I guess you could say the third one is the Shield Plus, but aside from that, you're getting this for around $1,000 for the metal and $800 for the plastic. If it was me, I'd be leaning towards the plastic version just a little bit more, just because the metal doesn't have that texture in there. But other than that, I think it is a very well thought out gun. Now, I think when you guys came out with this one, you guys were on the right track. But this here, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate your time. I love you all. Catch you in the next one.